Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to a very special interview of the Finalcut Podcast. And today, I have a very special guest. She is an actress, and she is one of the stars of the Kissing Booth franchise. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honour and privilege to present to you Meganne Young.
I'm so happy to be here.
And I'm even more happy to have you on. So, first question, inevitably, how are you?
I'm good. It's 9 a.m. in the morning where I am, so I'm still in my pajamas. I'm really happy this isn't being video recorded, but I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm not too bad. It's been raining all day in dear old England, so I'm literally on about my fifth cup of coffee today.
Oh wow! I'm not a big coffee drinker, so I'm always like very surprised when people can get to like 5 or 6 or 7 cups in a day.
Yeah,
I could barely handle one.
Well, we're going to say some of us just like coffee. Although we'll admit, I'm not keen on cappuccinos or lattes or espressos. I'm just plain good old instant coffee, me.
Okay, keeping it simple.
Yeah, it's just how I like it. Right, so second question. You've done movies, namely Eye in the Sky, Black Sails, Blood Drive, and We Are Not Alone. What were they like to film?
I mean, they were great. They were all very different genres, very different characters. Black Sails was probably my first, like, really big job where I had quite a big character arc for my character. So that was quite an interesting experience. And now when I look back at that scenes from that show, I can see that I'm quite green. I can look back and go, oh, I could have done more with this or more with that. But yeah, they were all wonderful experiences. All of them were shot in Cape Town in South Africa. So my whole career was born in that city. So I feel quite attached to all of those projects.
Cape Town actually looks like quite a nice place to visit.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. I mean, it's just, I think, gorgeous. And in some ways it reminds me of Vancouver when I moved here, just because of the closeness of like the mountains and the sea. It's quite a small city, Cape Town, but it has a lot to offer. And I think film crews really enjoy going there because it's so diverse in terms of locations and everything's relatively close by. It's not like Los Angeles where things are so spread out and it's a big sprawling city. So it's very contained.
Might visit it when Corona's over. Are you now? Am I understanding this correctly? You actually starred in an episode of Legends of Tomorrow. I
did. I guest starred in one of their episodes where they were in the 1920s, and I played Zelda Fitzgerald. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. I've always wanted to kind of play a character that was in the 20s, so it was really fun for me.
Was that wasn't that was the cowboy one. I was just thinking about Jonah Hex, but that was the one a bit further back than that. Yeah, I must admit. Yeah, I really enjoy Legends. Really, really do.
Yeah,
big fan of the Arrowverse.
It's a great show. Yeah.
Right, shall we get on to the reason we're having this interview? Kissing Booth 1.
Yes.
Watched it, loved it, reviewed it, loved it even more. How much fun was it making?
It was so great. I really had the best time on that show, especially going back for the second one. I think we had kind of established relationships amongst us in terms of like the cast members, but also just to revisit it and bring all those characters back to life was so much fun.
I'm going to say in the first Kissing Booth, we actually see you kissing Joe Courtney's Lee, which so kind of like your first scene was in the actual Kissing Booth in the Kissing Booth movie. Yes, that did take me. That took me a while to actually master it without getting me tongue tied.
Yeah, it's definitely a great scene to be introduced with, and I did get some positive feedback from Kissing Booth fans that they really liked that moment and really liked Rachel for kind of stepping up and then that storyline was born. So it made it even more wonderful to go back with the second film and actually develop that love story and see where it goes.
So obviously in the first movie, it centres around Elle, and there's a lot of mishaps regarding her. There's obviously the skirt that's too short, Louise voice talking about the lady parts in her chest, walking into the boys' changing room when she's blind. It's like when you watched it back, did you go, yes, that's happened to me, I completely and utterly understand?
I think in some ways, I don't think I've ever worn a skirt that was too short to school. I was quite conservative when I was younger. I was always pretty covered up. But I think that it was relatable in any kind of small or big moment of mishap that I ever had as a teenager. So I definitely did relate to it, but I don't think I ever had any really big moments like Elle had. That was really fun to watch. I kind of got to live vicariously through her in a strange way, you know?
Yeah, fortunately, I never had anything that bad either. So, that's one thing we can both agree on. Our school days were actually quite quiet and quite uneventful.
Yeah.
Right, so obviously you're in both movies, obviously. So did you know that in the second one you were going to get a bigger role than you got in the first?
I did, actually. I was home in Cape Town for Christmas the year before last, and our director Vince and our producer Michelle were in Cape Town. I think they were doing a little bit of pre-production and getting kind of things ready. And I had a meeting with them, and they walked me through the script. I didn't read that script, the script at that point, but they walked me through her storyline and what would be happening with Rachel and Lee. And so I did have a pretty good indication that my role was substantially bigger in these upcoming films. And
definitely more eventful.
Yeah, way more eventful. I was very, very, very excited. When I heard some of the ideas that were there and in development, I was very excited.
I'm going to assume here, it's not very often I assume, but I'm assuming you read the book before filming actually started, just to get you into sort of like an idea about how Rachel was.
No, I actually didn't. Read it before. When I first auditioned for Rachel, I just got a brief from my agent and a little kind of breakdown about what it was. And then I think I had my audition like 2 days later. And so I didn't know anything about the kissing booth until I actually was working on the film.
If it means anything, I did actually see a bit of it on Netflix, you know, when it's like, right, what to watch, and then it just sort of disappeared, and I was like one night, oh yeah, let's just give this a try. And I've literally been in love with it ever since. I just can't stop watching the first one.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, there's just something about it that kind of, I feel like everyone finds something to relate in it, and I think that it's got kind of a throwback feel. So if you're, for the teenagers now, they can enjoy it and relate, but if you're a little bit older, I think you can kind of enjoy it as well. That sense of nostalgia.
So obviously Kissing Booth 2 was kind of like a reunion of sorts. So how was the reunion?
It was great. I was a little bit, I was curious because 2 years had passed by the time we were going back. So everyone, had moved on with their lives and things had changed. And I wasn't quite sure like how well we would click. But then as soon as we were all in the same room together, it felt really easy. It was like, you have those friends you don't talk to for like a couple of years, and then you sit down and it's like no time has passed at all. It felt like that. And actually, I think we even got closer on these films than we did on the first, which was pretty great. Yeah, everyone's just so much fun and easygoing, and everyone's like, great to work with, very talented, makes for a good time.
It's always easier, isn't it, when everyone's kind of like very friendly?
Yeah, and I think everyone genuinely loves the films, and I think wanted them to be good and wanted to make the process enjoyable and really give it their all. So I think that common ground of wanting to make this great and really loving it also added.
Now, obviously, in the second movie, Rachel has a bit more of a bigger part to play. So So was it harder for you to? Was it harder for you to film, because obviously you are sort of centre stage of sorts, so that means Rachel's got a bigger role. So did you feel any pressure on you, or either on yourself or from the fans? Try and get Rachel as good as you could.
I did feel a little bit of pressure in terms of the standard, I guess, and like making sure that whatever I delivered was on par with everyone else, and also that the fans would enjoy it, because I mean, in the first film we made it and it was great, but I don't think anyone expected it to be the phenomenon that it became. Just this like massive success that exploded. So then coming back, I think we all felt that pressure to make sure that it was going to just build on what we had established with the first film. And then for me, obviously, I wasn't seen very much in the first one, but so coming back to the second, I wanted to make sure that my appearance more on screen was warranted and deserved. Yeah, and then I mean, we had some pretty emotional scenes, and there were some long days, so it was challenging for sure. But I definitely like that as an actor. That's what I want, is to be challenged. So I don't know if I would necessarily say it was harder, but it was more challenging, and therefore more sort of satisfying, because I got to like really work, you know.
Yeah, wasn't the first and second filmed in Cape Town? So wasn't it like in the middle of winter, or near enough in the middle of winter, when you were actually filming everything?
Yeah, the second one was filmed in the middle of winter. It's not like our winters are super snowy, or I mean, it's nothing like what it is here in Vancouver, but it's pretty cold, and when you're wearing a swimsuit, or you're wearing little shorts and a cute little top, and it's beautiful and sunny, but it's biting cold. Yeah, that wasn't the highlight of shooting, that's for sure. There was a lot of moments of all of the cast kind of huddling together and trying to keep warm, and we had lots of like robes and jackets and little like slipper boots that we could wear, and those heat pads that you get to keep in your pocket. So we did a lot of that. So in between takes, we'd shoot something, and then they'd be changing the setup, and everyone would kind of rush to get all their warmers on, and yeah, it was fun.
I thought you were going to say everybody wrapped themselves in tinfoil.
Why? Why in tinfoil?
You actually know that tinfoil, because when you have someone who's I'll say ill with hypothermia, tinfoil is actually a good insulator, so it actually stops the heat from getting out.
I didn't know that. I'll have to remember that for my next shoot, and I'll pack some tinfoil with me.
It's always handy. It's what they put on marathon runners, you know.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Right, so obviously you were in the second, and you were Lee's girlfriend, and Lee owns a Ford Mustang, so as a petrol head, I'm curious, what is it like to ride in an old-style Mustang?
It was pretty cool. I mean, I know very little about cars, so I feel like I'm maybe not the most exciting person to ask. Joel would probably have something way more exciting to say. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I think it's funny because one of the kind of the scene that we're like driving off along the road, and it's by the ocean. I think it's at the end. It's at the end of the film.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, a big part of shooting that was we were actually attached to another vehicle that was in front of us that had the whole camera rig, and Joel wasn't actually driving. It was obviously just being pulled along, and he could hold on to the wheel and act as though he was driving it, but it was just coasting and cruising. But then you had the fumes from the car ahead of us.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as kind of romantic as you see in the film, or romanticized. But yeah, it was fun.
Oh, that's ruined it for me. I was like, that was the most romantic part. That's all right.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I've learned a few things about Kissing Booth in my interviews, so you're all right. So obviously, there's newer faces in Kissing Booth too. I'm going to say I recognise Maisie Richardson-Sellers, who is actually in the Arrowverse, or was, but I'm assuming you knew Maisie beforehand.
Yeah, because I worked with her for that episode where I played Zelda. So, yeah, I'd met her. I'd met her on that, so it was really fun kind of reconnecting. It makes you feel like the world is quite small. I mean, she's British, working in Vancouver, also part-time living in LA, and then I'm South African living in Vancouver, and you start to feel like the industry really creates this web, and it makes it quite small, international industry. But yeah, she's lovely. And then we also had Taylor Zakar Perez, who is now just like a star is born. He's doing so well.
Oh, yes, Marco.
Yeah, Marco.
The handsome guy with a guitar.
Beautiful. Yeah, I remember going, I forget where we were. It was at a hotel at some point. And I think he was like sitting, it was actually quite sunny that day, and he was like sitting by the pool playing the guitar. And I was like, oh, why are you so good looking? You're so beautiful. And he's also just as sweet and kind and beautiful inside as he is outside. They really fit in with everyone so well, which was really impressive, and also just speaks to their kind of energy, that they are very easygoing and friendly, and really wanted to be part of the group and really made an effort with everyone. And that was really great. And
So are you saying Taylor is the perfect man?
Yes, he is.
There you go, ladies. If you want the perfect man, go and see Taylor.
He's lovely.
Now, Now, obviously, we have had a teaser for Kissing Booth 3, which is quite interesting, because obviously anyone who knows the Booth franchise will actually know what's going to happen. So, will we get any more teasers to whet our appetites, or is that the only one?
I'm sure you will closer to the release date, which hasn't actually been specified yet. But I'm sure you will get a few more teasers along the way.
Yeah, I know the answer to this, but I will ask it anyway. Can you tell us anything?
No. I can't.
I'll tell you what, I
can tell you.
Go on, carry on.
Yeah.
I was going to say I'll make a prediction.
Okay.
So my prediction is, obviously, with Elle obviously being accepted into both Harvard and Berkeley, that's it. And obviously she's mulling over the offer, so no matter what she does, she's going to get in trouble with one of the brothers. Mm-hmm. And then it's going to be a case of one of them will fall out with her, then the other one will fall out with her for applying to the other one and hiding it from them.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's near enough how it's going to go.
Well, I guess you'll just have to wait and see, and then you can let me know if you were right or not.
I usually am, because I'm quite good. I'm quite good. I study movies. I've studied them since I can remember, actually.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Well, you might be right, but I'm not going to confirm anything until you watch the film.
I like you. It's like no amount of teasing me will get me to reveal any other details. I like that.
No. Yeah.
Right, so this next part is just a little section that I like an actor's insight into. So, what advice would you give someone who is going through a decision when they feel that they are getting nowhere with their movie career, whether it be in acting or writing or editing or directing?
I think, I think about something that my American agent said to me when I talked about like hitting I forget exactly what the context was. It was a couple of years ago, but I said something along the lines of like hitting a glass ceiling and feeling like you couldn't kind of progress. And they said to me, you will always feel like that. No matter what level you get to, there will always be another glass ceiling, and there will always be struggles, and there will always be moments where you feel like things aren't quite going your way. And I have found over, I guess I've been working now for 8 years, maybe 9. Yeah, something around there. I have found that I've had those moments throughout my career where I felt like, I don't know if this is moving at the pace that I want it to, or the speed that the speed that I want it to, or the direction that I want it to. Mm-hmm. And you do kind of find yourself questioning. I think it's very good to kind of just accept that is part of your work. And when you kind of let yourself relax into it, and you accept that this is just a phase and you will move on, and each kind of movement forward counts. It doesn't have to be leaps and bounds, but every step forward is something. I think that's enough. Mm-hmm. It's also a very good time to really question how much you love what you do, because I love what I do enough to keep going even when it feels impossible, or even when it feels just soul destroying. Yeah. But I just love being on set. That for me, it's really worth it. And I think for a lot of people, they have that kind of addiction to being on set and writing scripts and pursuing their art and craft, and just to hold on to that, I guess. It's a very, very long, wordy answer, but hopefully someone can pull something out of that.
I always like to think the longer the answer, I'll say the better it is.
Yeah. I mean, I never like to kind of try and give someone like a solution. It's a lot of people, especially recently, have been asking me about acting and how to get into acting and like what's it like, and people seem to want a step-by-step program to follow, and it doesn't work like that. Every person's journey is so differently. Even if you look at like the six of us from Kissing Booth, Joey, Joel, Jacob, Maisie, Taylor, and I, all of our journeys in film and working in this industry are completely different. And we all landed up on the same project. And you can't compare one person's process to another and one person's experience to another. You just have to kind of hold on to what you love about this industry, and if it's enough for you, and pursue it with everything you have, and know that you are going to constantly face challenges, and you just have to keep taking them on.
Wow. Are you sure you're not a speaker at a university? You could actually literally fill a auditorium with a speech like that.
Oh my God. I get stage fright. I get really nervous. I'm fine with like one-on-one interviews, but the more people that are kind of involved, the more nervous I get. And if there was a big audience and I was just speaking as myself, I think I get stage fright, but maybe I can work on it.
Well, if it means anything, I'd be the same.
Yeah.
I can happily talk to somebody over Skype, but put me in front of an audience, I would just like freak out.
Yeah.
So, obviously, what's been happening the last 5 months, obviously cinemas worldwide have been shut. Thankfully, ones in Britain have reopened. In fact, I went last night to watch Chris Nolan's new movie.
Oh, amazing.
It's confusing, I will say that much. And I literally mean that when I say it's confusing. But I'm going to watch it again anyway, because I will be reviewing it. So, with that said, do you think that cinemas will soon be replaced by straight streaming releases, kind of like what Netflix do? Because it's like they just forego the cinema and just release their own stuff straight onto Netflix.
Yeah, to be honest, I hope not. I mean, I love Netflix. I love streaming services. I think they are amazing, and the access that they afford so many people is definitely like huge, and it's such a positive thing that they've brought to the industry. But at the same time, I do think there is something really special about going to a cinema and watching the work on a big screen. And some films and some work that's made, it really needs that space to actually kind of experience the epicness of it, you know, and to be kind of, especially with like action films or, you know, big sweeping single shot movements. You want to have that big screen to see it. So I hope that they can live, and I do think that they will be able to live harmoniously, the streaming services, and being able to maintain our cinemas and keep those theaters open. I think it would be really sad to lose that. I feel the same with like live theater. I would never want to only have recorded theater, and with COVID and seeing all of the you know, like the theaters in the West End or in New York being shut down, and to think that how are they going to get people in there that's safe and keeping that distance. But it's just not the same as I actually was watching, I forget what it was called, but there was like a service that you could actually watch theater, like live theater that was recorded. And it was great.
Yeah.
And these were shows that I'd never seen before, but it just wasn't the same feeling. And I think it would be very sad to lose that.
I can give you a perfect analogy of that. If you go and see an opera singer live, you'll just realise how good their voice is. But when you listen to it on CD, it doesn't sound the same.
Yeah, there's something about, actually, I can think of another analogy. I remember going wine tasting with some friends and talking to one of the sommeliers there. This was in South Africa, and they were saying a big part of a wine tasting experience is the view that you're looking at, the company that you're with, the food that you're trying with it. The wine always tastes more amazing than it really is. And then you buy 2 boxes, you take it home, you open it up 3 weeks later, and you're not in a good mood, and it doesn't taste as good. So much, like you said, it's that atmosphere and being there in person and feeling the room be taken over by somebody's voice. It's very difficult to capture that just on a CD.
Definitely.
But at the same time, I also think, lots of people can't afford to go and see movie after movie after movie in a cinema. So having streaming services allows people to access so much more. And I know people who kind of split over. They'll have Netflix for a couple of months, and then they'll switch over to somebody else if they can't afford it. So yeah, I hope it's a combination. I hope that's where we're moving towards.
Yeah, I kind of hope that as well, because you can't watch like a Chris Nolan movie in just ordinary TV. You have to experience it in IMAX, because he actually uses IMAX cameras for his work.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not the same.
Did you actually know that he actually sent a personal invitation to 10 world famous directors to the BFI chain in London, and he literally showed them why IMAX cameras are better than, say, ordinary cameras?
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And bearing in mind, these aren't just like any ordinary directors. This is like James Cameron. This is like Michael Bay. We're talking like real good directors.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Right, so let's talk a bit about you. So, obviously, you are passionate about the movies you are in, but what are you, Meganne Young, actually overly passionate about? Excuse me. Yeah, it is a bit hard, yeah. The tongue-tiedness is set in already.
Yeah, it's such a strange question. But I think I'm starting more and more, especially now that my following has grown. I've started to really look at social issues that I'm passionate about and that I want to lend my voice to and I want to draw attention to. So I've been doing a lot more work looking at gender-based violence in South Africa and research around that, and trying to... I do feel generally sometimes in the world that people want to find solutions to the symptoms and not really target the actual cause of problems. And I'm a big believer that education is a really powerful tool. And I feel like when I'm specifically looking at South Africa, but also looking globally, really questioning what we know and how we know it and why we think we're right over somebody else. So I'm quite passionate about, learning more about how people communicate and where education fits in terms of solving those social issues. That's probably a more serious thing that I'm passionate about. Love. I'm very passionate about love. I read a lot of love poems and stories, and I'm always trying to figure out where romance is and where it sits. And I have been writing more and more. I'd like to actually go into writing. At some point, I'd actually like to direct, but I feel like writing might be my next step. So I'm kind of developing my voice there.
Was that kind of like an audition for anyone who's listening?
I mean, it could be.
Bless you. What would you say are your career highlights?
Career highlights. I feel like I have different moments from different shows, but it's kind of difficult to pinpoint because they're so subjective of like moments on set where things just really worked. And as an actor, sometimes, you know, you don't, like when you're working in film, you don't always get like the space and time to kind of move through the emotions. You've got to work on a schedule. Yeah. And sometimes things are running over. So I've had moments like that where things have kind of just clicked into place. I do think like it probably will sound very cheesy and rehearsed to say that Kissing Booth 2 or like filming these two films together was definitely a highlight, but it really was for me. It meant so much in terms of my own personal career, because after Kissing Booth 1, I moved to Canada and I made this huge leap. And then feeling like I was going back to South Africa and I was getting to work on probably the biggest project I've ever done in terms of popularity, and also just such a massive role. And getting to go back home and do that, that was really powerful to me. And I just had such a positive experience. And I really do feel like I was challenged. And as I mentioned before with Black Sails, I was very green. And I did have like emotional scenes in that series. And there was, you know, a lot of meaty work to work with. But I don't think I was equipped at the time to really dive into it. I think I did a fine job. They cast me, so I hope I did okay. But this time getting to do the work and feeling like I had a lot to play with and I knew how to play with it. And I was really challenged and I felt like the director really trusted and challenged me. And I got to work opposite Joey King, who's just fucking phenomenal. Don't know if I can swear. Sorry. Whoops.
No, that's all right. You should see my podcast on a weekend. They're usually full of that, so you're all right.
Yeah, but honestly, it is a highlight of my career. I'm just hesitant to say it because I'm sure people are like, oh, she has to say that. But it is true. And it's more about the experience that I had and where I am in my career now. And that really made me feel like, okay, I'm moving forward. And it felt really good.
Well, you will not get any judgment from me whatsoever.
Good.
To be honest with you, I've seen too many people judge so many actors. I mean, everyone judged Robert Downey Jr. when he was cast as Iron Man. Everyone put a lot of doubt on Heath Ledger when he was cast as Joker. And everyone did that with Ben Affleck as well. And look how good them three turned out. I mean, Robert Pattinson, obviously the first thing people thought of, oh my God, why are we having somebody who was in Twilight? But it was DC Fandom this previous weekend just gone. And I just watched the trailer and I'm like, wow, he is actually a very good choice.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see him. I think it looks great.
I am actually quite interested about how the movie's going to go because somebody I know who is actually based in... are you from British Columbia?
I'm living in Vancouver in British Columbia.
He's actually based in British Columbia.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he is, yeah. He's actually a comic book nut, so he's been basically... I'll say educating me on everything about the movies that I'm actually interested in.
Okay.
So, yeah, it is looking quite interesting. Obviously, there's Dwayne Johnson as well as Black Adam. Yeah. He's been sort of keeping me updated about how that's going to work. So actually, I'm glad we moved on to other projects because that's what the next question is. What other projects have you got coming up, obviously, depending on how quarantine goes?
Yeah, with COVID's definitely kind of thrown a spanner in the works for everyone, I think. So there are some things that are in the works, but I'm not really allowed to talk about them, and we're not sure when things are going to get started. So I'll have to wait for our next interview to talk about them.
Well, between the next one and this one, I literally wish you nothing but the best of luck for them.
Oh, thank you.
And finally, one more question. If people would find you on social media, how would they go about it?
The best one is Instagram, because I basically live on that platform. I live on that app. So Young Meganne _. And then it's the same handle for Twitter. I don't say much. I kind of just hang out and read what other people are saying and follow stories. I'm not as active there, but you can use the same handle for both. Young Meganne _.
Would you like to plug the Kissing Booth while you're at it? Because I'm assuming they've got socials as well.
Go and watch the Kissing Booth.
And,
2.
Yep. Yeah, well, actually, just watch both of them because they're still that good. I would happily watch that over majority of everything I've seen. And on that, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to thank our guests for coming on tonight. It's been an absolute hoot. So, thank you very much, Meganne Young.
Thank you. I had a blast.